焼き鳥が大好きです。If you can't tell why that just sounded off, you're not alone. Pitch accent is often overlooked by Japanese learners. Today, we're going to dive into pattern B pitch accent. Let's get started. Hey guys, welcome to Monochrome Japanese, a peaceful space where you can focus on your Japanese study. I'm your host, Shiho. In today's video, we're going to take a closer look at pattern B pitch accent we introduced in the fundamentals video. I'll put a link below, and I recommend watching it first. By now, you should already know what pattern B is, and why words are marked with the circled or squared number 1 in textbooks or dictionaries. The idea is simple. After the first mora of the word, the pitch drops and never rises again. In other words, only the first mora is high, and the rest are low. If you're not familiar with the concept of mora, the fundamentals video will also help. Like other patterns, pattern B also have an official name in Japanese, Atamadaka ga ta, which is very straightforward. It corresponds directly to the number 1 marking. So the pitch for this pattern looks like this. Of course, we can't forget single mora words. But do you remember whether the pitch of the only one mora here is high or low? In the pattern A video, I'll also put a link below. I gave these 2 examples, 気になる and 気になる. If you recall, the word tree is a pattern B word, and the particle that follows it is low. So the pitch for a single mora pattern B word looks like this. Well, besides the word tree, here are some other common examples. 絵が上手だ。字がきれいだ。背が高い。目が大きい。手に入れた。歯が痛い。火が通った。Except for 歯が痛い, most of these are positive. Next, let's look at 2 mora or longer pattern B words. We're going to go in our usual order, which is nouns, verbs, and adjectives. First up, nouns. Actually, it's often more meaningful to separate nouns by native Japanese words, Sino-Japanese words, and loan words, and then consider their mora count as well. As Japanese pitch accents often follow different tendencies depending on word origin and mora count. This is a topic many Japanese linguists have studied for years. So in this video, we'll just see a few examples. Like, native Japanese nouns in pattern B are usually 3 moras or shorter words. Common ones include 赤、青、春、秋、雨、朝、白、黒、窓、兄、箸、誰、あたり、大家、緑、親子. And then for 2 mora Sino-Japanese nouns, especially when each kanji has 1 mora, are also usually pattern B words. There are many nouns like this, so I'll just give some common examples. 意味、辞書、家具、歌手、歌詞、趣味、位置、過去、許可、距離、都市、部下、無理、価値、規模、義務. And also, nouns that are three mora or shorter loan words are mostly pattern B as well. Common ones include 0, キス、カフェ、ジャズ、ジャム、ドル、シャツ、パン、カメラ、カード、ギター、クラス、ケーキ、テレビ、トイレ、ノート. Notice that when read in English, there are at least 2 words on this slide that have a different stress. Of course, there are not many quote-unquote rules like this, and even tendencies are not always clear-cut. Exceptions are common. But there are 2 things worth noticing about pattern B nouns. First, when a pattern B noun is the former element of a compound noun, its pitch often changes to pattern A or pattern D, depending on the mora count of the latter element. Well, the topic of pitch accent for compound noun can be a bit advanced, so I might make a separate video on that later. But for now, let's just look at a few examples. From the 2 mora Sino-Japanese nouns we just mentioned, some become pattern A in the compound nouns on the left, and they sound like 位置関係、都市伝説、義務教育. Here, the last high mora of the whole word becomes the first mora of the latter element, which means the pitch of the former element doesn't drop even after its last mora. And that's why they become pattern A. While the ones in the compound nouns on the right become pattern D, and they sound like 距離感、価値観、規模感. Here, the pitch drops after the last mora of the former element, so that's why they become pattern D. Similarly, some native Japanese nouns from this list often appear in compound nouns, like 赤信号、春雨、朝ごはん、窓際、親子丼. And as a color style, 白黒. Yes, the name of this channel. Notice how these pattern B native Japanese nouns become pattern A in these compound nouns. The second thing to notice about pattern B nouns is perhaps obvious. Some words have identical syllables but different pitch accents, which of course also changes their meaning. Classic examples are 雨 versus 雨, 箸 versus 箸, 牡蠣 versus 牡蠣, sake versus sake. If you can think of others, feel free to share them in the comments below. Actually, there's a lot more we could talk about pattern B nouns. But one key takeaway is many people assume Sino-Japanese nouns default to pattern A. So discovering they're actually pattern B can be surprising. That's because pattern A, C, and D start low-high, while only pattern B starts high-low, which can feel very different. The best thing to do is to get familiar with the pitch accent of common pattern B nouns first. Alright, that's enough about nouns. Verbs and adjectives actually make pattern B even more interesting. You'll see why in just a minute. Let's start with verbs. As we all know that verbs in Japanese are divided into 3 groups. If we exclude compound verbs, Group 1 verbs in pattern B are actually fewer than 100. And most of them are 2 mora native Japanese verbs. Some very common examples are 書く、切る、住む、飲む、待つ、読む、立つ、出す、買う、取る、脱ぐ、持つ、振る、打つ、折る、勝つ、つく、入る、通る、帰る。Now, pay special attention to these 4 words. 切る、買う、振る、帰る。As in, 爪を切る。爪を切るのを忘れた。猫を飼う。猫を飼ったことがある。雨が降る。雨が降っている。家に帰る。家に帰ったら誰もいなかった。If you happen to read them in pattern A, they become completely different verbs. 着る、買う、振る、変える。As in, シャツを着る。新しいシャツを着ることにした。飲み物を買う。飲み物を買ってきて。手を振る。手を振ってください。髪型を変える。髪型を変えたらすっきりした。Alright, how about group 2? Well, good news. There are only 8 pattern B verbs in group 2. Yes, 8. And all of them are 2 mora native Japanese verbs. And only 4 of them are commonly used. 見る、出る、得る、and 減る。As in, 映画を見る。今、映画を見てるところだけど。駅から出る。駅から出た瞬間、びっくりした。知識を得る。動画を見ることで知識を得る。時間を経る。時間を経ると記憶が薄れていく。The last one, 経る is a more formal verb out of these 4. And if you read it in pattern A, it becomes a totally different word, which is 減る as in 腹が減る。仕事が一段落したら腹が減ってきた。If you happen to know who says this a lot, leave a comment below. We know that group 3 includes the irregular verb 来る and all the slew verbs. Well, except する itself. Most of the slew verbs are derived from Sino-Japanese words, loan words, or adverbs and onomatopoeia, in native Japanese words. Like 注意する、メモする、ドキドキする。Including 来る。Some examples are 彼は必ず来るって言ってたのにな。アレルギーがある人は注意しないといけない。大事な情報だからメモしといた方がいいと思うよ。好きな人に声をかけられたらドキドキしちゃう。Now, adjectives. Also great news. For E-adjectives, excluding compound ones, there are only 5 pattern B words. Yes, only 5. E, 良い、濃い、多い. And the last one might be a little surprising, but I believe that you've learned it early on, which is ない. For example, いい人に出会えたらいいな。良い一日をお過ごしください。俺がいるから心配する必要はないだろう。彼は顔が濃くてイケメンだ。週末になるとどこも人が多いよね。For not adjectives, there are more pattern B words, but still not too many. Most are Sino-Japanese or onyomi nouns or adjectives, with a few loan words and native Japanese words as well. Common examples are きれい、元気、便利、頑固、適度、めった、親切、熱心、随分、満足、厄介、主、静か、確か、豊か、新た、素直、ハード、シンプル、カラフル。Finally, let's review today's content with a quick quiz. First up, nouns. In these 12 compound nouns, identify all the ones whose former elements were originally pattern B nouns. For example, 時間制限. If you think the word time is originally a pattern B noun, then include it. Okay, I'll read them now. Are you ready? 時間制限、中国語、親子関係、経済成長、大根おろし、東洋医学、散歩日和、金銭感覚、野菜炒め、動作確認、人物像、言葉遣い。Alright, here are the answers. Did you spot them all? 中国語 is from 中国 and 語。親子関係 is 親子 and 関係。経済成長 is 経済 and 成長。東洋医学 is 東洋 and 医学。金銭感覚 is 金銭 and 感覚。動作確認 is 動作 and 確認。人物像 is 人物 and 像。Next, verbs. Find the sentence where I mispronounced the pattern B verb. I'll leave some time after reading all the sentences for you to pause or replay. Are you ready? カフェは混んでいたけど、 奥の席なら座れそうだったので入ってみた。雨の日に水たまりを思い切り踏んでしまって靴がびしょびしょになったんだよ。腕を組んで真剣な表情をしていた高橋は何か大事なことを考えているようだった。Yes, the verb 組む is pattern B. So it should be 腕を組んで not 腕を組んで。腕を組んで真剣な表情をしていた高橋は何か大事なことを考えているようだった。Finally, adjectives. Are you ready? 日本には観光客が多い都市がいくつかある。道に迷っていたら親切な店員さんが教えてくれた。このプロジェクトには新たな課題が出てきた。Alright, notice that it's 親切 not 親切。道に迷っていたら親切な店員さんが教えてくれた。Alright, that's all for today's video. I hope you found it useful. Oh, before I go, you probably see it coming. There's one more thing. We haven't talked about the sentence from the very beginning of this video yet. I read it as 焼き鳥が大好きです。Now you probably see why I said it sounded off. The na adjective favorite or like very much in Japanese is a pattern B word with a number 1 marking, which sounds like 大好き not 大好き or 大好き. So this sentence should be like 焼き鳥が大好きです. Try asking Japanese learner friends how they pronounce it. You'll notice that most of them can't correctly read it as pattern B right away. But why might this be? I think there are 2 possible reasons. First, influence from the word 好き, which is a pattern D word, as in 好きな人 not 好きな人. But at least people hear it as somewhat flat and don't drop the pitch, even when it becomes this, and continue reading it as flat. Well, the second possible reason has to do with an interesting phenomenon in Tokyo dialect Japanese called 遅下がり, where the pitch doesn't immediately drop after the last high-pitch mora, creating a parabolic effect. This emphasizes the word and sometimes makes it sound cuter. So when you say this more naturally, it should sound like 焼き鳥が大好きです. It might not immediately sound like pattern B already, but notice the last mora ki is still low. I suggest you also find out how standard Japanese or Tokyo dialect speakers would pronounce this word, or how it's pronounced by audio clips from JLPT listening sections, textbooks, or TV shows, anime, etc. This phenomenon doesn't just happen with this word. If you want to dig a little deeper, go check out some resources on the topic. Lots of scholars and Japanese enthusiasts have done amazing research on it. In many ways, pattern B words are worth paying attention to. So I encourage you to share in the comments below words that surprised you when you discovered they were pattern B while you were pronouncing them otherwise. This helps everyone start noticing the pitch accents of these words. That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, you're more than welcome to subscribe and share my videos with anyone you know who's learning Japanese. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.